in their heart. Again, I love the Christian church, and I believe the best days of the Christian church became filled with the Spirit, and great things are happening. So, I mean, exactly what we're talking about, but when I'm going to turn the clock back to about 1100 or 1050 BC. And during that time, the largest tribe in Israel is falling away. God, because of the first commandment, you will have no other gods before me. And then the number 2 is no graven images. When we're something lower than God, we're something lower than God, since God is the King of Kings and Lord of Lords. So, since God is the King of Kings and Lord of Lords. So, I believe it's Judges 13. He was already into idolatry. He was already into idolatry because his God was not Yahweh, the God of the Bible. Where the writer of Hebrews is named Joshua, given all the 12 tribes their allotment of land, their territory. And it was like the southern kingdom, northern kingdom, but it was all one country. And so Dan, their allotment was right on like the Gaza Strip, right along the Mediterranean. A beautiful piece of real estate, probably today worth billions and billions of dollars. But there was one problem. There were a lot of Philistines there, and the Philistines had better metallurgy than the Jewish people, and they had better swords, they had better chariots, and the Danites couldn't beat them. And so instead of turning to the Lord and asking God for a strategy, the Danites figured, we're going to just get out of Dodge. We're leaving. So they left their allotment that was really given to them by God, and they went northeast all the way up, way above the Sea of Galilee, way above that area to a place called Bashan. And Bashan is this whole region of very dark and demonic stuff where Caesarea Philippi is, Mount Hermon, and all of that. And they went up in that area about 1050 BC and resettled there. And I'm going to read to you from Judges 18, 29 through 31. And this is after they moved. They moved from the Mediterranean all the way up to by Mount Hermon and Caesarea Philippi. This is Judges 18, verse 28. The Danites rebuilt the city and settled there. They named it Dan after their forefather Dan, who was born to Israel, though the city used to be called Laish. There the Danites set up for themselves the idols, and Jonathan, the son of Gershom, the son of Moses, and his sons were priests for the tribe of Dan until the time of the captivity of the land. They continued to use the idols Micah had made. All that time, the house of God was in Shiloh. So this is pretty sobering. So they move up to the base of Mount Hermon near Caesarea Philippi, and they have all these idols, and the priest they have for these idols was the grandson of Moses himself. That's pretty sobering. So let's remember Moses, Mount Sinai, the Shekinah glory of God. He's getting the 10 Commandments. The Shekinah glory of God. I mean, he's up there 6 days, and he's in the presence of the living God. Then his son, not so good. By his grandson's time, he's worshiping idols, and he's a long ways from the Shekinah glory of the living God. 3 generations. And that's kind of the story of Dan. So there was a guy named Jeroboam. He was after David died and Solomon, Israel divided into the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom. As if, like, let's say the Confederates had won the Civil War, you'd have like the southern U.S., the northern U.S. So in the northern kingdom, there was this guy named Jeroboam. Southern kingdom was the grandson of David, Rehoboam. Both these guys were bad news. These guys were into idolatry big time. So Jeroboam, he wanted to keep the people like captive in the northern part of Israel. So he set up 2 golden calves, one in Bethel and one up in Dan. So Bethel was the southern part of the northern kingdom. Bethel was the northern part of the northern kingdom. And he said, don't bother going to Jerusalem. Just worship God right here at Bethel or Dan. Because historically, Jewish people would make a pilgrimage to Jerusalem to worship the Lord. But Jeroboam didn't want them to go to Jerusalem because then they'd hear about the true Yahweh, and then this whole idolatry thing would become a problem. He wanted to keep them captive. So this is actually called Jeroboam's, his demonic strategy is actually labeled like, quote unquote, the sin of Jeroboam. That is, keeping people captive in idolatry and not allowing the true truth of Yahweh, the living God, to come into their lives. So in Revelation chapter 7, you get the list of all the tribes of Israel. It's all 12,000 of this tribe, 144,000 in Revelation 7. What's really interesting, there's not any mention of the tribe of Dan. I mean, everybody's there. Zero, no. And remember, we're talking about the second biggest tribe. I mean, this is not like Issachar, some little puny little tribe. We're talking about number 2 tribe, zero, zilch, nada mentioned in the book of Revelation. Irenaeus, a church father, early church father who connects directly to the Apostle John, he felt that the Antichrist would come from the tribe of Dan. So that's the kind of reputation that the Danites had. So that's the background of Caesarea Philippi. So we're back, we're going to fast forward 1,100 years back now to the time of Jesus. This is the background of this area, this geographic, cosmic geography of this area. It's dark, it's demonic, it's filled with idol worship, and it has renounced faith and obedience to Yahweh, the living God. Now, I did a little research, and I wanted to find out what archaeologists have discovered and how is the science of archaeology, what's the history of this region that would maybe be outside the Bible but might give us a little point of view. So here's just some things. This is not in the Word of God. We've already established the Danites are bad news, they're idolaters, so we're good there. But let me just give you a little background. So around Caesarea Philippi, archaeologists have found 30 pagan temples just in the area with pagan idols and all kinds of stuff. And at the base of Mount Hermon, now this is interesting, at the base of Mount Hermon, one of the largest springs that feeds the Jordan River. The Jordan River starts way, way, way up north. And they found this it's a cave. It's this humongous cave. And out of it, this cave, comes this major spring that feeds the Jordan River. And in fact, again, now this is not Bible, but this is just like how these people saw things. The Canaanite tribes, and then later the Greco-Roman people, they saw that cave, it was so deep and so ominous, they called it the gates of hell. That's what the gates of hate, that was its nickname. Because they actually believed, again, remember, they're superstitious, they felt the thing was so deep, it led all the way down to the realm of the dead. So that's what they believed. And so, this Philippi,